Grief is grief even when no one has died. And I'm starting to recognize that life is a series of grief. It's a lot different than nostalgia because nostalgia is more like positive feelings of the past. But if you're like me, you're someone that like when you're in a moment that is so special to you, it's like you almost have like this disassociative experience of like knowing you're going to miss what you're currently experiencing. And if this is you, you know what I'm talking about. It's a lot different than that. I specifically was thinking about people who intellectualize their emotions and how a lot of time people that intellectualize their emotions do that as a protective mechanism. It's a learned behavior that kept them safe, right? It kept you from losing love, and your brain kind of goes into not to denial so you don't have to acknowledge the pain you're caused. So let me explain. If you're an intellectualizer, chances are your emotional needs were not met consistently. And so, I wrote a post on Threads the other day that said if you keep on saying I understand why they did what they did, so I can't be mad, but you don't extend that same emotional attunement to yourself, eventually you're going to be sent into full-blown rage. Ask me how I know. It's because there's stages to grief, one of them being anger. And it's like you had to grow up with this protective mechanism in order to stay safe. And when you get to a point on your growth journey where you're like, actually, I want people that can meet me at the same emotional depth. I want people to recognize when I need help. I want people that see me to the same depth that I see them. You recognize all of the ways that you were let down. When you're someone that has bypassed your own emotional experience in the name of understanding, you've been abandoning yourself the entire time. It's like you were taught to deny your own emotional experience because your emotions became a problem to other people that did not have the emotional capacity. You probably understand and sympathize with people that they don't have the emotional capacity, but you're not extending that same grace to yourself. It's almost like you continue the relationship you had with these people into the relationship you have with yourself. So now, when you're upset about something, you say things like, I understand why they did what they did, so I can't be upset. And even if you do get upset, it's like you're trying to rush your emotional process. You're like, why am I still crying about this? Why am I still upset with this? And it makes me so sad because it's like, if you're someone who loves deeply, you're going to grieve just as deep. The capacity to which you can love someone is the capacity to which you'll grieve. I've always been an intellectualizer, and I've had resistance towards sharing my own experience with others because I feel like I have developed this identity of being the person that always has it together, but I really desire people that can see when I'm struggling and want to offer a helping hand. And that starts with me being open with my emotional experience, and those that can meet me will, because I know if someone I loved was struggling and they were vocal about it, it would break my heart. If you're an intellectualizer, people probably look at you like you have it all together. You have all the answers. You don't really need help, or people don't know that you need help. When you grow out of this identity and you extend emotional attunement to yourself, like, yes, actually, I need to be witnessed in my own emotional experience by someone else, because we heal in proximity to safe people and in safe relationships. You can only do so much healing work alone. You need corrective experiences in order to feel safe moving forward. My point is that when you grow out of this identity, when your identity changes, all of the relationships attached to it have to go. When you understand this, there's so much grief in this because you're probably still connected to all of the relationships that you have. And it's like, damn, is everybody an op? I've invested so much into people that just were never going to invest into me the same way, not even a second thought in their mind. Perhaps this is not everyone, because everyone has their own unique experiences, but it's like this person meant so much to me and I did not mean as much to them. They didn't care the same. And there's grief in that. You realize that you may never get acknowledgement for the pain that you were caused by people that didn't want to acknowledge your emotions. You know, if you've been in relationship to someone like this, no matter what that relationship was, it's almost like they weren't in a relationship with you. It's like you were in a relationship with them and they were in a relationship with themselves. And the entire emotional dynamic revolved around them and how they felt. Right? So I talk about shame a lot. I'm pretty sure there's 4 different types of shame. I don't know them personally. I know 2 types of shame, externalizing shame and internalizing shame. You and the people you meet and that hurt you the deepest, you're a perfect mirror. You're opposite sides of the same coin. You have the same exact wounds, they're just expressed differently. People that cannot take accountability when you say, "Hey, you did this and it hurt me," they now make your emotions the problem. They're externalizing their shame. They can't bear the weight of that, and you tend to internalize it. It's so sad because there's so much grief in that. And for me, in my last relationship, all I wanted with this person was to love them and spend time with them. And I was made to believe like I was like a bad person. And so I've just been recognizing the grief in that, something I had to really instill in my mind, right? Because like I said, it's like your brain goes into denial. I'm not saying you're in denial, but it's like our brain goes into understanding others so that it prevents us from feeling pain. There's been so much grief in this for me because I was like, damn, like I wasn't a bad person. It's so imperative that you give yourself your own acknowledgement, right? Because 2 truths can coexist. You can understand someone deeply and still recognize the pain that they caused you. And you have to do this. The one thing about grief is grief demands to be felt. And so you can outrun this for so long. You can intellectualize your emotions for so long until life hands you a platter of compounded grief that you have to deal with at probably the most inconvenient time. When that will be for you, I'm not sure. You have to understand that acknowledging your own pain is healing. It kind of sucks because it's like you can't wait for other people to acknowledge your pain, and chances are they won't. You have to accept the fact that you may never get that acknowledgement because that would require the other person to take accountability for their actions, and they already proved they cannot do that. In order for someone to apologize, they would have to reconcile who they believe themselves to be and how they showed up and the difference between the two. The person that hurts you is not going to apologize. And that sucks. And instead of shaming yourself, it's like, why are you shaming yourself? You cared about someone deeply, and so what? You're grieving something you think you should be over, so what? Like, if you cared about something deeply, it's going to take time for you to process that, and it's okay. Society is so focused on like not caring or who cares less and being nonchalant. I'm like, why are we shaming people who have emotions and not shaming the people that are just devoid of emotion? Not that we should shame people for that, but because like that just turns into a whole other conversation of just like using that as a protective mechanism and not actually healing things. But it's like, okay, you cared about someone deeply, you love someone deeply, and you're still hurt by it. You're hurt that your needs weren't met, your pain wasn't acknowledged, you weren't supported, no one showed up for you when it really mattered. Rightfully so, you should be upset. I wrote here, I said that there's no payoff for your suffering. And there's a specific type of grief in that. It's like you have tried so hard to invest into people that there was no payoff for it. Even if it's not people, if it's career, certain work related things that you've invested time into and they just didn't get you anywhere. There's grief in that. We think that suffering makes something meaningful. It's interesting because I don't know how to solve that just yet. When I do, perhaps I could share that. Or if anyone does, please let me know. But yeah, life is a series of grief. When things end, it's sad. When you care about things deeply and you invest yourself into things deeply, it's sad when they end. And it's a specific type of grief when you weren't met with the same effort.